Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Green, and I'm the Vice President of Partnership Engagement for the Ignatian Volunteer Corps. We have an exciting hour planned for everyone that includes some conversations about service from some amazing folks who currently are serving, and I'll provide an overview of the Ignatian Volunteer Corps so you can learn more about who we are as we welcome you to join us to serve. But first up is Sister Jean. Our president and CEO, Mary McGinnity, had an opportunity to spend some time with Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, the chaplain of Loyola Chicago's men's basketball team, the Ramblers, and how timely during March Madness. Let's start with a clip where Mary will give us a great overview of IVC, and she talks to Sister Jean about service.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary McGinnity, and I serve as the president and CEO of the Ignatian Volunteer Corps. IVC is a service corps of men and women who desire to make a positive difference in this world by purposing their retirement years. They bring that expertise, their rich experience in life and work, and their wisdom to the benefit of social service nonprofits. IVC Service Corps women and men impact the lives of those seeking to overcome poverty, marginalization, racism, mental and physical health disparities and disabilities by their dedicated service work assignments in the hundreds of social service nonprofits, schools, legal clinics, medical clinics, and charities across the country and internationally. And these are organizations that IVC partners with. Our service corps members and the IVC mission system that supports them enhances their capacity to serve by investing additional time on their spiritual and personal growth through the Ignatian Spirituality and Community Program. This program is informed by the Jesuit tradition of Ignatian spirituality. The Ignatian path of finding God in all things through contemplation and prayer and reflection, and living a life that reflects God's love through deeds of service is core to the IVC service mission. The spirituality and faith of our service corps energizes and deepens the service work that we do. Today, it is my privilege and real honor to introduce to you a woman, a beautiful, grace-filled human being whose very life reflects the positive power of service and spirituality. Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, a sister of charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, is joining me in conversation and reflection. With 104 years of life on this planet, her joy and spirit brings us a rare wisdom on how to live our years in fullness and in a way that enhances and serves in a positive way the lives of others. I had a chance to pick up and read her book, Wake Up with Purpose. It's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it if you want a beautiful, inspiring read. Wake Up with Purpose. Sister Jean, I love this book. And I'm going to take a minute to read a little bit more about your bio because I think people need to know just what an amazing woman that you are and what you have done with your life. So Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt is a religious sister of the Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. She has spent her entire adult life working as a teacher, administrator, and volunteer, first at elementary and grade schools in Chicago and Los Angeles, later at Mundelein College for Women and Loyola University. She had a very important role in that transition, by the way. Since 1994, Sister Jean, as she is known, has served as team chaplain for Loyola's men's basketball team. And she gained national celebrity status and fame in 2018 when the Ramblers went on in a Cinderella run to the Final Four. Celebrity status is not usually something we have a nun aspire to, but God's graces brought her into a celebrity status where her role with the men's basketball team of being a chaplain and praying with them and really supporting these men in beautiful ways was shared with the world. So, Sister Jean, it is a delight to have you with us, and I welcome you. Thank you for giving us some of your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure to do this. And thank you so much for that introduction. You know a lot about me already. So I'm happy to share more with you and with the audience. And when you talk about all this service and that I've done, and lots of people do service today, perhaps many who never thought about doing it, like those who have retired and just want to do something that's going to bring them closer to God and bring other people closer to God. And I love hearing about the activities that they have with the Jesuit volunteers, because some of the elderly, and I include myself in that, when I was growing up, I never thought older people could, do what young kids do, but they do it, and they love to do it. And I know a couple of people who have joined that volunteer service and have become almost new again with the renewal and the spirituality that they gain, and want everybody else to do that too. Don't be sitting around watching TV all the time. Some good things are on TV, but you don't need to sit in front of it all day.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. No, I'm glad that you brought that up about their being renewed, because this is what we see happen within IVC. And maybe you might even think there might be a story in your own life where this has happened to you too, where you kind of think, well, what is my purpose anymore? I'm done with certain things or whatever. And you get out there and you find out that your experience, your talent, your skills, the very person that you are can make a difference, and you get out there and put yourself out there again. Did you ever have an experience like that, especially in your later years, where you were renewed?
Well, in 1994, when I was invited to be a chaplain to the men's team, I said, well, I've never been a chaplain to a men's team, but I worked with young boys, elementary school, so I guess I could do it. So I just got in there and really designed my own program for the young men. And we had a great man, Father Sweeney, who was involved in athletics a great deal of his life. And he used to say Mass for us. And he used to keep track of all the games we played and all the teams we had wins and losses. He was just such a wonderful inspiration to me and to the teams. So I became the chaplain. But first, before I even became the chaplain, I was what I called the booster shooter, because I, quote, retired from Loyola in 1994, because Loyola offered a very good separation package, and my community said, take it. And I still could do work. I could still, and I was doing boosting people's spirits, the young men and women in the basketball area, because the president told me that he thought that would be a good job for me to do, but he would actually, he would pay me. He said it wouldn't be volunteer. He would pay me for doing it, and just talking to these young people and seeing if they had their work done and so forth. So I used to see the students who were close to a C, just like a C plus average. He wanted me to be sure to help them, not be their advisor, but just to see that they got their work done, that they were going to class and so forth. So they had to see me every Monday. So my Mondays were full of appointments, talking to both these young men and young women, because they knew that if they fell below a C, that they wouldn't be able to be on the team anymore. So I did that for a couple of years. And
So
then,
your role was really to meet with them and give them encouragement and a belief in themselves so that they could do and aspire to be more.
that's exactly right. To do
What a
that.
service. Yeah, that is a beautiful gift, a service.
So that was great. And what I'd like to do right now is introduce our president and CEO, Mary McGinnity. How you doing, Mary?
Hey, John. Good to see you. Thank you. And good to be with everybody.
You too. Thanks for being here. And I think to start off with, I guess I just would love to know what it was like to be in conversation with such an iconic woman.
Oh, gosh, John, I have to say, when I first sat with Sister Jean, started talking with her, first thing that went through my mind was, wow, does she blow my ideas of what it would be to be 104 years old? Because I usually think I never want to live that long. But then meeting her and listening to her and seeing that vitality just was incredible. And then I thought a lot about just the scope of the life that she has led and the changes she has been a part of in this world. Changes from over 100 years ago, what it was like to be a woman, what it was like to be a nun in the church, and these changes from pre-Vatican II all the way up to today. What it has been like to live in this world, to walk in this world throughout that century, and that she has been a part of bringing about those changes in our world to make it, I think, a better place. And then also, I think today, as I just listened to her again, as she talks about it, this radiant humility that she has, the grace, the spirit, and the joy. And I could see her whole life of service has also brought about a beautiful spirit and grace in her. And so it's a real privilege to spend time with her. Really was.
I bet. Yeah. She makes this point in your conversation with her where she talks about people of retirement age, they can do things that younger folks can do, and that the service brings about a renewal in spirituality. How would you describe that experience of being renewed through service?
Thank you. That's a great question. And I want to answer it not just from my own personal experience, but also from all these years that I've been able to listen and walk with men and women in IVC Service Corps. And the thing that I reflect upon when I hear their stories and hear how they entered into the IVC experience is, we may say, what's animating in them, but there's God already seeking them out, frankly, because I usually hear elements of people who say, I have gratitude for what I've been given. They have great compassion for people in need. They have a desire to address social issues in our country and in our world. And that's all brewing inside of them even before they meet IVC. And they come in with a beautiful humility, and they bring that into the relationship. So they get placed and they start working, and they start getting to see how their skills and their relationships and the work that they're doing is actually bringing about more compassion, more gratitude, more understanding. And it is a renewing. I watch people get more energized, more alive, more joyful. And then also when they get into community with each other and start talking about it, that community vibrancy just lifts higher and higher. But then they get in relationship, and the people that they serve, I hear it over and over and over again. IVC Service Corps members talk about how the people that they work with, the people in the agencies where they serve, the people coming in, they say, I get more than I give, and they are giving to me. And you see that phenomenon, right? You know it.
Yeah.
You see it yourself. Yeah.
Yep. And listening to you, Mary, I think a lot, I know I'm included in this. A lot of people, when they think about being called, they think about people being called to religious life, but you're really describing a calling of the laity.
Yeah, actually, it's a call not just to the religious life, but it's a calling, I think, no matter even if you're a person not of faith, but that calling of gratitude, compassion, humility, and desire is a calling. It's a movement of the Holy Spirit in all of us. And when we choose to put that in action, that's what we're talking about. and maybe in old days it was priests, nuns, whatever. It's in all of us. And it's something where we're like a magnet. When we answer it, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and she was also talking about choosing service to be closer to God. And I was just thinking about how that is also replicated among our service corps members, that they find a closer pathway to God when they commit to service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's a phenomenon. They're already on that path when they're listening to that gratitude and compassion and desire that comes in first, wherever they're going to go. But then as they get deeper into service, those things just get deeper and deeper and compassionate. And that's where the contemplative spirit of their spirit comes alive, and they're animating that and growing close to what is divine and what is God working in this world.
Yeah, I think she mentioned that she officially retired in 1994, but that it was at that point that she became the chaplain for the basketball team, and she talks about feeling like she had a base level of skill to come in and do that, and I'm struck by how that mirrors the skills brought by IVC members when they enter the Corps, and how they can grow from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting for me, John, over the years to listen to how people come in and we might place them with a certain skill set. Like maybe it's a retired attorney that gets assigned to an immigration legal services center, or, retired social worker working something else, and then retired engineer maybe to teach math or something that's akin to the skill set. But what I watch over the years is then they discover that they're new skills. So maybe they come in and say, I don't know, I'm not really a native Spanish speaker. And so I want to develop my language skills. So they go and learn more. Or that engineer teaching math, he decided he wanted to get further education in how to teach middle school kids. And so there's a learning and growing in skills. It may come in one way, but because they come in with a humility of, I'm here to be of service, what is needed of me, and then I will grow into being what is needed. So I've watched them really grow in skills and expand in that. And you know what? That keeps us healthy as we're aging, to learn new things, to grow, to expand ourselves. So it's pretty exciting to see that kind of skill renewal emerge. And again, it comes because of humility and just the desire to be the best that they can be for the men and women that they're working with and serving with.
Yeah, absolutely. New environments too that can teach us new things.
Yeah.
Well, so Mary, I just want to thank you for being here with us today, and for sharing about your time with Sister Jean. We're going to play a little bit more from your interview toward the end of the webinar, but I think now is a good time for us to shift into talking a little bit more about IVC and letting people know who we are and what we do. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to share some details of the IVC program. So thank you, Mary.
And John, before you sign off, thank you for the great work that you do for IVC. You're
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so a little bit of PowerPoint time here. If you want to, let me see if I can move that along. No. So just to start off, let's talk about what we believe in IVC. And at IVC, we believe that the experience, wisdom, and skills of older women and men can transform the world through justice rooted in gospel values. And some of our values that we have listed here, we value service done with and for people overcoming poverty. We value reflection on the work, service experience with the poor. We value the life experience, wisdom, and skills of lay women and men. And we value the leadership role of the laity to transform the world through justice rooted in gospel values. Dignity and equality of all women and men, regardless of race, age, sexual orientation, education, economic deprivation, or social status. We value the search for the presence of God to be found in all things, and the call to holiness extended to all women and men throughout life. And we certainly value our Jesuit support, including opportunities for spiritual development in the Ignatian tradition. So the IVC experience is where we invite Service Corps members to use their time and experience to give back and make a difference. Our members are leaders of change, offering vital resources to organizations, schools, and churches that are at the heart of the communities that we live in, and many of those communities are struggling. Through direct service among the poor, members enter a lived experience of others, showing respect for the dignity and equality of those they serve and serve with. And the members are sustained through their commitment to Ignatian spirituality and the community they create with one another. Seeking the presence of God in each person, they bring their stories back to one another in community to reflect, enrich, teach, and learn. So how does it work? The directors throughout the country, and including our virtual region, they work to match members who are interested in service and joining the Corps with nonprofits, schools, and churches who are in need of their skill set in some capacity. And we support our members in their service through monthly meetings, occasional retreats, and opportunities for one-on-one reflection. The commitment that we ask people to make is twofold. One is that we ask our members to commit to a service site, and they do that 1 or 2 days a week. It depends on the region, but mostly it's 1 or 2 days a week. And those hours are flexible depending on what people are doing and what the commitment is. The directors work with the members to discern where their skills and life experience intersect with the world's need. And the IVC members commit to participating in the IVC Spiritual Reflection Program, which includes monthly meetings and gatherings, retreats, and opportunities for that one-on-one reflection experience. What makes us different is that we ask people to make that commitment, because when an IVC member is at a partner organization, they become like a staff person and they join that community and they're a reliable and committed person on staff. And we take a lot of time and effort to figure out what that skill set is and where it would be best utilized in the social services in our community. And then also the spiritual reflection program that we offer is what makes us different than other service organizations. So we use the word partnership quite a bit, and I think I've used it already. When we talk about partnership, we're talking about the organizations in our communities that request IVC members to help them. These are nonprofit organizations, sometimes they're churches and schools, and we enter into an agreement with them so that they have that member 1 or 2 days a week in their organization from September through June. And the IVC partners with the community organizations, agencies, and programs, and we also refer to those as service sites. So some of the areas that our IVC members serve in are education, health and wellness, housing, legal aid, elder care, advocacy, veteran services, and workforce development. And the roles can be anything from mentors and tutors to intake coordinators, case managers, paralegals, pastoral ministers, communications officers, outreach workers, and resume writers. And then we've talked a little bit about the spiritual support program, but we have opening and closing retreats, usually in September and June. And there's oftentimes one in the middle of the year, January. Certain days of reflection, where sometimes we do that in our local community, or we try and bring all of the members together in a format like this. We have our monthly support meetings, and then spiritual reflection, which people do one-on-one. So any of you who have found us through the America Magazine ad, this is a map that also seen there. But these are the places that we are located throughout the country where we have regions. But as many of you know, we have been able to establish what we call a virtual region. And this has given us the opportunity to engage with folks anywhere in the country and place them in service. And then we can offer them the spiritual reflection program and monthly meetings in a webinar format. So it's been pretty great for people. So is IVC for me? Does the idea of a community rooted in social justice, service, and spirituality appeal to me? Do I have the time and ability to commit to a service partner 8 or 16 hours a week and the willingness to reflect on that service? And am I interested in learning more about Ignatian spirituality and deepening my faith? So those are some questions for our attendees today to consider, but this is a good opportunity for us to shift into what I think is more interesting than watching a PowerPoint, and that is to introduce you to some currently serving IVC members. So I am very excited to introduce you to these two. The first one I would like to introduce you to is Mari Lou Menezes, a member of IVC Chicago who serves at Cristo Rey St. Martin College Prep in Waukegan, Illinois. Mari Lou plays a pivotal role in the corporate work study team, contributing to a program that profoundly impacts the lives of students by providing them with invaluable professional experiences and skills. Thanks for being with us today, Mari Lou.
It's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
I'd also like to introduce you to another extraordinary individual, Joe Benoit, who is a member of IVC Albany, who serves as a mission extender at St. Peter's Hospital. Joe's role goes beyond mere volunteer work. It is a heartfelt mission to provide comfort and spiritual support to patients in their most vulnerable moments. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so to start, I would love to hear how you both found IVC and what led up to that. And Mari Lou, maybe we could start with you.
By all means. So my finding IVC was actually quite accidental. I knew I had recently retired, was at crossroads, looking to do something, not quite sure what. Knowing also, because of the crossroads in my life, that I wanted to pursue a little more spiritual development. And so chatting with my sister, she had just got the Bellman Jesuit Retreat House newsletter. And in it was a long article about IVC. And she had been very interested in IVC before that. So she gave the newsletter to me and I read it and I thought, this sounds rather interesting. It's a better blend of volunteer work, but it's also allowing me to grow spiritually. And so the next thing I knew, I picked up the phone, called the director, had a conversation. It was the middle of COVID, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. How about you, Joe?
Well, I happened to our director like through some different organizations, and for a number of years, and I had retired as well. The kids had moved out, and I was having coffee with him and talking about, I felt very busy, but I felt incomplete. I didn't really feel like I had a mission or whatever. So he mentioned to me what his wife Kate was doing as far as IVC. It was worth a conversation. So I had coffee with Kate, and we talked about where I was in my life and what she was doing with IVC. And, it took one step, led to another as far as, how that might work. And it just kind of to my involvement.
Wonderful, wonderful. One of the things that we talk about with IVC is that is using skill sets to apply them in service. And I'm wondering how similar or different the work you're doing with IVC compares to your job experience prior to this.
So I'll go first. Oddly enough, for the last 35 years, I've been a finance executive at a bank. But if you go back to my original training before I came to the United States, I had trained to be a teacher and had actually got a master's degree in education, was in the process of teaching, and then never touched it for 35 plus years after that. I retrained when I came here. So this actually brought me back to my roots, dealing with children and dealing with young people and mentoring them and tutoring them. was something that I had thought I'd always do and given up for a long period of time. It brought me back to it.
That's fantastic. How about you, Joe?
Well, in my placement, I actually interface with patients in a hospital. I go room to room and have conversations that could lead to different needs or wants or whatever. So in my background, I was in a sales management role. So I'm very comfortable in interfacing with people and starting conversations, hopefully, and in hope, trying to go from there. So to me, it was a very transferable skill and something that I actually very much enjoy. So when the placement was a good fit, I also want to mention that, in the hospital I'm in, it's where my children were born and where I lost my wife to cancer in that hospice center. So not only do I feel comfortable with the work, I really feel it allows me to honor her and to be in a place I should be, just based on my life situation.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Joe. I hear from Service Corps members all the time that they develop a relationship to the place where they serve, and it's really special to hear that you had a relationship with the place that you serve, and that you've been able to expand on that in a different way. I think that a lot of people can relate to that. I wonder if
for me, well, I was just going to mention that for me, it's a way to honor my wife, and also use the experience I have for empathy and relating to patients and things of that nature. So almost felt like I have a responsibility to use that background to try to apply it. And Ignatius, of course, is faith through action. So it allows me to kind of put that into play.
Yeah, I bet. And Mari Lou, when you talk about returning to your roots, I can't help but to think how different school settings and teaching must be after all that time. What is that like?
So I had completely forgotten what it was like to be in a school environment, paying attention to period times, young children. I had taken such a gap from it. But it's wonderfully refreshing. And it more than just the school setting in many ways, because, my sisters and I are the first generation in our family who went to college and got formal degrees. So dealing with these young people who are in the process for the first time in their families, acquiring degrees, reminded me a lot of what my parents went through to give me opportunities. And it made me connect in a completely different way, and not something that I ever expected to do. As you talk to them and you hear from them and you begin to get to know them and their dreams and their aspirations, and just in some cases just getting some of them to dream, because just the idea of going to college in many cases is such a huge event for them that they can't think beyond that. And so that's one of the things I strive to do.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, I think you kind of described this, but I think those of us that are working with younger people and we're older, we can be mentors and also anchors to them, to something as they look forward, but it's completely unfamiliar and sometimes scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to say one more thing, if I may. It's not just the wonderful environment and working with the students. Over time, I have really appreciated the staff at the location I'm at and how dedicated they are to these students and the amount of effort they put in. And then just being at IVC with all the other volunteers and seeing how joyful they are and how much of themselves they've given over the years, it's inspirational. For someone who's recently retired, I mean, I've been with IVC for 3 years and I'm the newbie, compared to people who've been around for 15 years plus. Yeah.
Well, I think some would argue that if you're doing it right, you always feel like a newbie. So the other thing that I would love to share a little bit with our viewers today and to talk about is the experience of the IVC community. And so you both come together with a group of people once a month, and you take a deep dive. You share your experiences. Like what impact has that had on your experience of service?
So when I first thought about volunteering, I had in my head, having come off a nice, lovely corporate career, very successful and all that stuff, that I had to do something similar. And what I learned from my other partners at IVC and the other people who were in the community was to give it time to let things sink in, to begin to appreciate the small things. And it takes a little while when you're coming off your high managerial role where you're inclined to drive things and be a bit pushy, at least I was, to start appreciating quiet change and see that at work in yourself and with others. But I got that guidance and support from that community. I don't know if that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that does help. How about you, Joe? I'm having a tough time hearing you, Joe.
While we're waiting for Joe, maybe, John, I would like to say, from a spiritual aspect, I spent 35 plus years in an environment that was a corporate environment where spirituality is not something you consider. I consider myself one of those. I grew up raised by wonderful parents who raised me Catholic, but I went to church but wasn't actively engaged. Let's just put it that way. And this has been a renewing of my faith in a much deeper way than I ever expected, as I did a lot of introspection. Not that anyone's shoving it in my face or making me do anything, but just hearing how other people have encountered stuff and then thinking about it, it has begun to affect me in a very big way, that I am now delving deeper than I ever did before.
Yeah, thank you for that. Joe, let me see if I can hear you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi issues from time to time.
It seems like there might be Wi-Fi issues. Yeah, what I can say on behalf of Joe is that they've got a pretty great community in Albany, headed up by Kate and Barbara, and they're very lucky, as are you, Mari Lou, to have Tom and Kathy.
It's an extraordinarily vibrant community. We get together in small groups once a month. And then in our particular community, we meet once a quarter where all the small groups get together. And there's usually a lovely speaker and somebody to give you food for thought. And just that gathering of people and getting to know them and hearing their stories, it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, Joe, I think your audio cut out. So I'm sorry about that. What I can also share. So you mentioned being a newbie, Mari Lou. I've been with IVC now for almost 5 years, and what I've come to learn in the meetings and being a part of that, because I'm in the Philadelphia, South Jersey region, is that you become almost like a family. And there's something that you share in common that is almost like a common language where people, it's pretty wonderful. So
I will say this, and I don't want to go into the details, but I had a little health hiccup last year that took me completely unawares and came at me sideways. The wonderful support I expected it from my family, expected it from my friends, but the support of this IVC community, and the outreach that I had during the duration of that hiccup is it buoys you up beyond belief.
Yeah. I'm going to give Joe one more shot to see if he can chime in, and then
You guys hear me now? Can you hear me?
yes.
Sorry. Okay. Now?
Can you
hear me now?
last? Yes. Any last
Well,
words?
I would just say, that just similar for my background, I was very excited about the volunteer work. I was a little more guarded about the monthly meetings, and I don't come from a deep religious background, if you will, so I wasn't quite sure what that was all about. But over the last couple of years, I've gotten much more comfortable, and I find that's a very important aspect, just to, kind of help my faith grow, personalize this in that regard. So that's actually been a little bit of a surprise to me, a hidden benefit of, really feeling that sense of community that I was a little bit guarded initially on. So, that's been a nice surprise, and fortunate in that regard as well.
Well, I can't thank you both enough for being here with us today. And I'm going to shift over to, we have one more clip to share with Sister Jean and Mary McGinnity. And they're going to talk about, Sister Jean talks about who has influenced her and what has inspired her to stay in the game. And so let's move into that. We'll take a listen. I'm going to mute and stop my video, and then I'll be back as soon as it's over.
And, over 100 years, this church has gone through so much change and growth and differences. And, your vocation has stayed through as a sister. And we know very much the sisters, especially in the United States, have been foundational to so much of the social service network in the world, in our country. They started schools serving those who were poor and disadvantaged, hospitals. Our Catholic social system out there is incredible. And it's really due to the sisters and the nuns that have been in service all these many, many years. So thank you for your vocation and your service that you've given to the world. Let me fast forward a little bit to now. I hear you're still in service. You go out and say hello to the students, and you're greeting and being of service to everyone that you meet. Tell us a little bit about that, what you do now.
Well, I'm a chaplain now.
Mm-hmm. At 104, you're a chaplain still.
Oh yes, I'm chaplain to the men's basketball team.
Still, this is great. How do you think they're going to do this year, by the way?
Well, I hope they do better. They won last night against Charleston Southern, and that was a big win for us. And we've had losses too. But I told them the other day we need to be at 0.600 before we get to conference games. And so we have one more game to play, Central Michigan, and we do that December 30th. And we begin our conference games on January 3rd. The conference is hard. When we went to the Missouri Valley group, it took us about 2 years really to get into the swing of the valley. And then we worked our way all the way up to the top. So this is a harder conference for us, but we hope to do well. We're improving in our playing, and to have won last night was a big win for us as well. And so we played better in the second half than we did the first half. So today I will send an email to each one of the team members. The email is always generic in the body. And then I always put a special note at the end that fits only that person, and only that person sees it. And it might say, where were all the threes that you used to make? Or it might say, how come you made so many fouls and gave them so many points? Or I'll tell them how many free throws we missed. I'm always harping at the free throws. because you could win or lose the game. So when I go back to work today, that will be my main project, is getting out these emails. I had to think about the body of the letter yet. I thought about it last night, but I need to think more in depth about it and send it out with their little note. And they wait for that. And some of them write back and say, thank you, Sister Jean, or whatever they want to say. And I would have to tell them that, Central Michigan's going to be hard. We are finished playing easy school, so.
So you get them a little prepared here for what's coming up, but you're there to support them through your writing, through your attention and your care. This isn't a magnificent thing for young people to have someone in their lives like you. That is wonderful. You love them. I can tell.
Sure.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really beautiful. And I'm thinking too, a little reflection here that in the course of the kind of woman that you are, that you've given your life in service as a nun, in your relationship and an instrument of God's love and grace, and the service that you continue to do, even at 104 years old, you are, it doesn't even look to me like you're wearing out, but you're definitely not rusting out. But I also want to honor the women that fed you, your mother, the nun who taught you and inspired you to become a teacher because of who she was. There's a lot of women in your life that have inspired you to be the woman that you are today. And it's just such a beautiful gift. So I celebrate you. I celebrate your life. You truly are that Ignatian concept of love as shown in deeds of service. You love greatly because your service has been great. So Sister Jean, I really want to thank you. I want to thank you for this time that you've spent with me and with all of us. It has really been grace-filled for us. And I only wish you health and wealth and vitality for as long as we could possibly have you here on this planet. You are a gift. Thank you so much for this time. You be blessed.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. And pray for IVC too, that we just continue to grow and do the same kind of spirit that you do.
Free throws win or lose the game. Very well said, Sister Jean. We miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. So for all of you with us today, take your shot with IVC. We look forward to bringing you on as a member of our team and discerning how to utilize your skills and talents. I'm going to reach out to all of you by email with next steps in ways that you can join IVC. I'd like to thank Deanna House-Spiro at the AJCU for arranging our time with Sister Jean, for Loyola Chicago, American Magazine, Mari Lou, Joe, and Mary for being with us today, and for all of you in attendance. There are so many ways that you can be a part of IVC through service, regional council support, as spiritual reflectors, or through philanthropic support. Donations to IVC can be made through our website, ivcusa.org. Have a good evening, everyone, and we'll talk again soon.